Hello everyone, it's Forest Focus as Sean Dyche takes charge of Nottingham Forest for the first time against Porto in the Europa League on Thursday. What kind of test can he expect? Well, a tough one for sure, but joining me to tell us more is Porto fan Andrew Batista from friends of the show, the Long Ball Futebol podcast. Andrew, good evening, mate. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very good. I'm very happy to be here, especially on such a big news day for Nottingham Forest. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yes, as we record this, Dyche hasn't actually been announced, so that intro could go to hell, but I think it'll be all right. It looks pretty much done. So yeah, we shall see. We shall see. You obviously people have heard that you've got an English accent, you've got a Portuguese surname. How come you're a Porto fan?
So I'm actually South African Portuguese. I was born in South Africa, raised in South Africa, but to Portuguese parents. Been supporting Porto since I was about 10. And yeah, long time fan. And I live here in the UK now. So yeah, that's pretty much the story.
So Porto, I'm sure you've seen tons of good times. Just looking this morning at recent history, obviously they've had good seasons, but by their standards, it seems like they've not hit the heights of winning the title. What kind of state are they in as a football club, would you say?
Definitely on the up, but that's just because how poor we've been in the last few years. Last league title win was in 2022, and since then there's been 3 managerial changes in that time. We lost our president. It was an election for presidency, and our new president is Andrew Batista, who your fans and your listeners will probably know him from his time at Chelsea, his time at Tottenham as a manager. And since then, he's brought in a manager in Francesco Farioli, which I think is much better suited to Porto than his first appointment in Martin Anselmi, which was a kind of experiment of a manager coming from the Mexican league, whereas Farioli is a lot more European-centric. He's an Italian manager. He's managed in Europe his whole career, although it's quite a short career, but still. So yeah, definitely on the up, doing well this season. We brought in some very good players, very positive at the moment. Everything feels kind of good, but what happens is when you start really well, like we did, the pressure starts to mount and everyone wants either to see you fall or to see that continue. And that's kind of where we are at the moment.
Well, I certainly wouldn't recommend experimental managerial appointments because they certainly can blow up in your face. But,
yeah, you know best, yeah.
I do today, certainly. Farioli, the manager, is really interesting. Reading up on him, crazy journey to get where he is. Can you tell us a bit more about him and then we'll get into his football?
Sure. So Farioli started his life in football as a goalkeeper coach, and he moved around a bit in different places. And then he met Roberto De Zerbi, and that was really the guy that sort of helped him transition into this phase that he's in now. He was a goalkeeper coach for De Zerbi in Qatar, and then he moved with him to Italy, to Benevento, and then to Sassuolo, which is where De Zerbi saw a lot of his success. And then since then, Farioli went to Turkey for a bit, coached Allianzspor and then Nice. He did quite well at Nice, although he didn't score a lot of goals, but they were very defensively sound. That's kind of what everyone remembers from his time at Nice. And then Ajax last season, where they put up a heck of a title challenge, but sort of lost it right at the end. And since then, he's obviously come to Porto now, and a completely different thing in Porto than it has been in his previous jobs. Definitely more pressure, more scrutiny from the Portuguese media, coming to one of the biggest clubs in the country and the most successful Portuguese club in Europe.
Yes, he's had no playing career of note I can see. Wikipedia is always the worst place to look, but it sounds like he said he studied philosophy and sports science and then started at a very low level. So he's done well for himself. What did you, when he got the job, coming off the back of Ajax, absolutely blew up at the end of last season, did you think it was a good appointment or were you nervous?
I think it was a good appointment because of how bad Martin Anselmi, who was his predecessor, was. And I've always been a fan of Farioli. The first time I really saw what he was about was at Nice. I watched Nice for that whole first season, and then I wrote a piece about Farioli as well. So I got to sort of know what he was like as a manager. He's changed, he's learned as well, and he's only 36, so that's going to continue to happen throughout his career. A lot of what he does is kind of similar to De Zerbi, although he has his own ideas and some of his philosophies are a little bit different. He likes he appreciates defense a bit more than De Zerbi does, which is something that, De Zerbi, especially at Brighton, he would ship quite a lot of goals. So yeah, he's clearly a very talented young manager. He's one of these managers, like you said, that hasn't had a playing career, which is something that you're seeing more and more of. But they're a lot more kind of tactical. They're all about structure and about very specific things, whereas you see ex-pros that they do it a bit differently because they've played the game. So it's just a different understanding.
And it's obviously working thus far, as you said. Top of the league, 7 wins, 1 draw, and that was against Benfica, who are obviously a top side as well. Scored 19, conceded 1, and won both their Europa League games. I assume you're pretty blown away by how it's gone so far then.
If you told me at the beginning of the season this is what was going to happen, I wouldn't have believed you. I was a bit worried, even though we brought in some good players. I would have never expected us to be so defensively sound, first of all, but also just to play the type of football we've been playing, really dominant in every game. Even against Benfica, we dropped 2 points, but we were the completely dominant team in that game. Against Jose Mourinho, Jose Mourinho pulled the Jose Mourinho masterclass. It was a very defensive performance from that Benfica team that day. But otherwise, we've been so dominant in all the games. And yeah, I'm delighted with it.
Talk to us a little bit more then about the style of play and what you think how you think they'll set up against Forest, because it's an interesting game around us. How do you think they'll go about it from Porto point of view?
So he doesn't really change what he does from game to game, Farioli. It's always pretty much the same. He'll make a few adjustments if there's someone out with injury, but if he's got his starting 11, the main starting 11, they're going to do the same thing every time. I think a lot of this game will be in the midfield. That's where it's going to be won and lost, because the midfield is very dominant for Porto, but you've got a very dominant midfield yourself with Elliot Anderson, Ibrahim Singari, and Douglas Luiz. So a lot of legs, good quality on the ball. So I think that's where a lot of the game is going to be. As for the style of play, expect a lot of high-intensity pressing, a lot of trying to win the ball back in advanced positions, trying to get attacks going very quickly, trying to create overloads in wide areas, using the fullbacks a lot, especially with Alberto Costa and Martin Fernandes, who are both back from injury. They're fantastic fullbacks, attacking fullbacks, very good at crossing the ball. So definitely expect that. Expect a good defensive unit, particularly from Varela, who's the holding midfielder, and then the 2 centre-backs, Jakub Kiwior and Jan Bednarek, who your listeners will know from their time in the Premier League, of course. And they've done really well this season. I mean, 1 goal conceded. Amazing to be at this point of the season, to have only conceded 1 goal. And then I'd say expect a very difficult time for your defenders with Samu, who's our star striker. He scored 8 goals already this season. He's just coming off the back of a hat-trick. He scored in the Cup at the weekend. So he's a really physical and formidable player. So I'd expect a very difficult game for your 3 centre-backs, who are physical themselves and who are sort of imposing as well. So I think it's going to be a great battle.
Just before I ask Andrew about a few of the names that he said there, a quick word for the Trent navigation. This game is on TV. I think all the European games are, so you can watch it on the big screen at the Nav. You'll see it on screen as well. The Graz game, which is coming up. If you arrive before 5:30, you get the chance of a free pint of Madri, because they've teamed up with those guys again, and you can get your dinner there and enjoy all the match, and obviously you can enjoy this match as well. Hopefully we do enjoy it, as now it's a fresh start, and we'll see what Sean Dyche brings to the table. Right, a couple of names to pick up on there. I mean, Kiwior and Bednarek are really interesting. Kiwior he did well at Arsenal last season as like the number 3 centre back. Bednarek's come off the back of a pretty nightmarish couple of years in a sense at poor old Southampton. Are you surprised by how well he's done, or did you expect that he'd fit in like this?
So for Bednarek, I was surprised just because it wasn't a move anyone saw coming. And then for him to sort of get into the team and stay in the team and be as good as he has been, because he's been very assured, very comfortable on the ball, very cool and calm and collected. Kiwior, on the other hand, we know he's a great centre-back and he could have probably gone wherever else he wanted to go. But him coming to Porto, I was delighted by that. And the fact that they played together for the national team, they have sort of that chemistry as well. And they're both really sort of tall, imposing centre-backs, but both centre-backs that are good with the ball at their feet. Maybe not for like Premier League level, but certainly for Porto level and other leagues, other European leagues. So yeah, I was surprised definitely by Bednarek. I never thought he was a bad defender, but he was in a team that would just concede so many goals. And we've seen, Southampton get a couple 9-0s. Everyone remembers, that's happened a couple times to them. But for him to sort of come in and be as dominant as he has been is great.
There's a couple of the names I wanted to. People who watch this podcast will know that Pete Blackburn's a bit of a football hipster, and he mentions some names. So I'm just going through my phone to find them. But one he definitely says was Varela, who links the whole play to. Oh yeah, I really like Varela. He knits it all together. Is he the integral man then in the whole that makes the team tick?
He really is. He's my favorite player that we have at the moment. He's a really imposing midfielder. He's strong. He's good with the ball at his feet. He's always looking for a line-breaking pass. He's got a hell of an engine on him as well. So he's definitely one of the most important players, and the team looks completely different without him in that midfield. So I think he'll be a really big figure in this game, and will be someone that I'd say Forest should be focusing on, because he's gonna get through a lot of work in that midfield.
Our biggest problem at present is, we've got quite a few, the fullback wide areas. No Oleraina, Jai Cunha isn't in the squad, who I think might play in the Premier League for us. We've got Nico Williams, who's great. Zinchenko's having a tough time. Your wingers, Sainz and Pepe, according to my text here from Pete, are they the wingers, and are they a huge threat for us, do you think?
They will be starting. I mean, Borja Sainz, who he was at Norwich City, so he knows the English game, and he's a good sort of take on kind of winger, and that's what he's going to be looking to do. He's going to be looking to cut in and get the ball on that right foot and try and whoop the ball into the goal. Pepe is a very tricky winger. He loves dribbling. He loves going at players, and he'll do it all game. And the only criticism that has always been leveled at him is his end product. He's maybe not as good at finishing as he should be as a winger, but in terms of his energy when he's on the ball, and his desire to constantly dribble at his defenders, is second to none in the team. So he is going to give you guys a hard time, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm sure he was linked with us over the summer tentatively, but
he's been linked around for a bit. Yeah.
I think we were linked with probably every winger in Europe at one stage or another, certainly. The other name you mentioned there, Samu, the striker. He's been on the radar for a while. I'm sure you're pleased he's still there. Is he one of you think he's going to do great things for you and do even greater things for someone else, or not?
I hope he stays as long as he can, but I see him probably leaving after the season, especially if he carries on the way he's been this season, because we know really good strikers are always in high demand in Europe. He's been great. He's, like you said, a player that's been on everyone's sort of radar for a while. He almost went to Newcastle when that whole Isaac Valdemar, all that mess was going on. He was heavily linked to them, in fact, and we were a bit worried for a second there. So I think if he can stay fit, I think he's going to continue to do great things. He's a really physical, imposing striker. He's very intelligent as well, in the way that he makes his runs into the box, and he's also quite decisive when he makes his decision. He takes his shots early. His only sort of weakness, I would say, is probably his link-up play. But that's, as long as you're scoring goals, they don't really care about that too much.
Yeah, because I've seen bits of him, and he looks like, is he kind of that archetypal modern number 9, big, quick, powerful, as you said, intelligent, but also young, and he feels like, is he making great strides quickly then at the moment?
He certainly is. Yeah, I'd say you could see a lot of his game developing. I think it's even with Farioli. So a thing with Samu is he's a very intense player, and that means he's quite passionate, and he can sometimes get himself into trouble with the, screaming at the ref and getting into argy-bargies with players and that kind of thing. But Farioli coming in, Farioli's quite a calm presence, and you can see he's trying to get that craziness out of the team, because a lot of players are like that at Porto. Porto has always been sort of associated with that within Portugal, the sort of the dark art stuff and the high intensity chaos football. And I think we've seen someone better this season in that sense, where things don't go his way, he handles it better. That also comes with age and maturity. But he's definitely improving in that sense, and I think that's going to help him.
I'm assuming we're going to go back to a back 4. So which of our centre-backs do you think he'd want to play on more? The physical power of Milenkovic, or the strength and lower centre gravity of Gael of Murillo? Which is the battle that he might want?
I think it'll probably be Murillo. Yeah, I think so, because I think the physicality, I mean, someone can do it, but doing that all game is quite difficult. The good thing is Samu's pretty quick, and Milenkovic is not the quickest, so that's the only difference. But I think probably Murillo.
Just wrapping things up then, what are you expecting? And it's okay to say you think you're going to win the game comfortably because you're doing so well. How are you feeling about it?
So, I mean, if this was a Portuguese league game, I'd have a different answer. But so far in the Europa League, we've struggled a bit, even though we've won both games. Both wins have been sort of in the last minute, and it's been struggles against Red Star Belgrade and Salzburg. So there's obviously something in the Europe side of it that we've kind of been struggling with. The positive is that Farioli's found a way to win those games. He's brought players on, and we do have game changers and guys that can do things, and to sort of tilt the game on its head. But I think Porto will win. I think it'll probably be something like a 1-0 or a 2-0. It's also Sean Dyche's first game, so you never know what he's going to do. I mean, if he signs on, obviously, as we said. But yeah, I think it'll probably be about a 1-0 or a 2-0. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy.
And those games, the two that you played, Salzburg and the name of the team, forgive me, don't know how you pronounce
Red Star Belgrade. Yeah, I just say Red Star.
Oh, okay.
Colloquially, what we've always said, so I suppose.
Yeah, because when I saw it written down, it's written in the new way of saying it, not Red Star Belgrade. Cool. Did you struggle in those games because they sat in against you and made it difficult, or was there another reason you struggled?
So Salzburg were pretty good at overloading in the midfield, which is what we really struggled with against them. Belgrade were very good defensively, and they were very organized. So they did sit back a bit more and try to play on the break. But that was a game where Porto were more dominant than they were in the Salzburg game, but they just struggled to sort of, win the game like emphatically. So yeah, it's probably a combination of both in the different games. But the thing is, with this Porto team, every team that has kind of overloaded the midfield with bodies has found success against Porto this season. Even though we haven't lost games, that's when we've looked our most vulnerable. And I think if Sean Dyche is listening, I hope you're not, but if you are, that's how you do it. Because that's kind of the difference is in the midfield. We'd get through a lot of work, not just with Varela, but Froholt and Gabriel Viega. They dominate that area. And if there's too many bodies, of course, it's much harder to do that.
Well, if you believe Twitter, he's in the pub tonight, bonding with players or something like that. So.
At least he's on the way, probably.
Last question. When we went to Seville, the Betis fans were like unbelievable. The atmosphere was incredible. The Michelin fans, I think it was only like 100 came, but they were really good. How many Porto fans, I don't know if you know that, are coming, but also what atmosphere will they bring, do you think?
They're going to bring a lot of energy. They'll be singing, but I don't know if it's going to be a sort of crazy European atmosphere like you saw, especially in Spain, because they go for it. I think it depends on what happens in the game, because our fans can kind of get ignited, let's say, if things start going the wrong way or if there's some pressure. So I think that's sort of what we'll see. But I think expect some noise, expect some ferocity, Portistas and especially the Super Dragões that are going to go. They love the club and they let everyone know about that.
Cool, excellent stuff. Where can people find more of you guys? I think you've joined the Long Ball Futebol podcast this season. Is that right?
Yes, I have. I was I guest starred a few times last season, but I've joined full time now. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts on Spotify, etc. The Long Ball Futebol podcast, football spelled Futebol, and my work is on Substack. It's just Andrew G Batista on Twitter, and then if you look at our podcast, you'll see my podcast mates Albert Carter and the brilliant Kevin Fernandez. Our work's all on there.
Cool. Yeah, they're good guys. They've been on quite a few times talking to us about Rio Ave and our Portuguese connections. So yeah, do check that out for sure. If you have enjoyed this, do us a favour, hit like, hit subscribe if you're a channel member, or sign up to Patreon. You'll get early access to anything like this that's pre-recorded, or give us a lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. And we shall be back next. Next up will be our post-match show to discuss whatever has actually happened. So thank you to Andrew. Thanks everyone for their company. Do hit like before you go. And if we don't see you either tomorrow or later tonight, depending on when this comes out, we shall see you soon.